It's the sales team's job to generate revenue. And revenue is the fuel that drives every business enterprise or company. And so selling is very important, yet selling continues to be the least taught profession in the world. And in fact, selling is highly misunderstood even by salespeople. So what I want to bring to the surface here is what is the word selling actually mean? A lot of people use it as a verb. We need to sell more products, or we need to sell this idea, or we need to sell this to the decision maker. I had a sales manager once that if the deal hadn't closed, his go-to phrase was, "We need to do more selling." And I would say, "What do you mean by that?" And he said, "Well, we need to do more selling." And I'm thinking, wait a minute, selling as a verb doesn't even exist. How do you do that? Now you can meet with the customer, you can negotiate with the customer, you can present to the customer, you can explore the customer's needs, you can discuss with the customer. There's a lot of pieces, things you can do, but the act of selling doesn't even exist. So how about we think about this differently? Instead of thinking about selling, let's think about positioning. Positioning the value of your product or service. Turns out top salespeople are really good at two things. If you look at any company, top salespeople are really good at two things. One is helping people, and the other is communicating effectively. So helping people is not something I really spend a lot of time teaching. It's kind of an innate quality. If you go to bed tonight and just before you put your head on the pillow, you say to yourself, "I don't want to help people," then you probably shouldn't be anywhere near the customer. Most people I work with, they desperately want to be a valuable resource, and they want to help their customers in every way they can. Which brings us to the second piece, communicating effectively. Or I should say communicating more effectively than everyone else who's vying for a share of the customer's time, attention, and budget. So how to communicate more effectively, and that comes down to skills and skills development. When we start to think of selling in terms of positioning skills, now we start to involve more than just salespeople and the sales team. Marketing is hopefully helping position the value of the product or service. Possibly our customer service or support personnel. Possibly people working on implementation or engineers. There's a lot of people who are involved in the positioning process, and the best case scenario is we're all aligned. Now, marketing's job is to create broad messaging. When marketing creates a website, when marketing does a campaign, trade shows, they're talking to dozens of different companies and possibly dozens of different industries. So they're going to have broad messaging, which is fine. We want marketing to have a message that we can build off of. But as salespeople, our job is to take those broader messages and translate them into specific value for the customer. So for example, if we can help increase your operational efficiency, that's not enough. How? Well, we can increase your production per hour, your labor force. We can give you a competitive advantage. We can help you in terms of securing your environment, managing your data, reporting. I don't know what's specifically important to your next customer, and until you talk to them, you may not either. But if we know in advance, we're going to be positioning not just ourselves, but the company and the products and translating that into specific value. I just would tell you the days of selling customers or smooth talking people into buying, the days of trying to persuade people to move forward or convince them that you're good, they're over. Because persuading and convincing are all acts of manipulation. And customers don't want to be manipulated by a salesperson. They know you're trying to sell them something. My customers, I want them to think, hey, he's trying to help me. And in fact, I am. I'm absolutely trying to help people understand. And the best way to help people is communicate effectively. Now, one other point I'll make on that is a lot of people in sales and marketing and so forth, when they help people, they think of how can I help them in good ways? We can help them increase efficiency. We can help them increase productivity. We can help them make better use of their budget. And all of those things are good to point out. But how about this? How about help them avoid some potential potholes? So if I was in manufacturing, I might say to a customer, Mr. Customer, it looks like we're going to move forward with this. I'm not saying that's a guarantee, but it looks like if we move forward with this, there's a handful of gotchas we might want to pay attention to before you just cut a PO. And the customer will instantly look at you and say, what do you mean? Well, implementation is really important. So a little bit of thought and planning on the implementation front. If we need to set up a meeting with your implementers for that, that might be helpful. We need to think about adoption, because if only 2 people out of 20 use it, then you're not going to get the full value if it becomes part of the culture of your company. Maybe we need to think about delivery time frames or warehousing in advance, because if the product shows up and there's not a place for it, then we could have an unnecessary fire drill. And so some people here then say, well, Tom, why would you bring up negative things? Well, that's not negative. There's big consulting firms, Deloitte, KPMG, Accenture. What do? They're in the business of helping people. They don't just help them with things that are already going well. They help them also avoid potential potholes, downside risks, other things that need to be thought about. So if you're doing that as a salesperson, maybe you're not a salesperson per se. Maybe you're part salesperson, part consultant. Maybe you're even more of a consultant than a salesperson. But top salespeople are the ones that are helping customers the most, and the ones that are communicating the most effectively, which has to do with pointing out good things and also helping navigate the potholes that otherwise your competitors will probably never bring up, which gives you an unfair advantage if you're talking about this much value and other people are just trying to promote their specific brand.